One of the most important and most valuable things that you can do for yourself after you've been fired, regardless of whether your termination was fair or unfair, legal or illegal, is asking yourself the following question. Is there a lesson that you can and should learn from this experience of being fired that could serve you and help you in the future avoid this situation? Ask yourself, is there something that you could and should have done to avoid this? Or maybe there's something that you shouldn't have done to avoid being fired. There are many situations out there when there's just nothing you can do. You do everything right, and for whatever reason, again, fairly or unfairly, your employer decides to get rid of you and fire you. However, I see more and more often how many workers make the same mistake and how many workers could really learn the following lesson. Many problems and many conflicts and many terminations start from that one single email or one single text message from an employee to his supervisor. Something that says something maybe not overtly offensive or insulting, but something that makes the supervisor go, who the hell does he or does she think she is to talk to me like that? It could be a harsh criticism, or it could be some kind of accusation. It could be a message where maybe you accuse your boss of being a liar, whether fairly or unfairly. And from then on, a good relationship turns sour and a bad relationship becomes intolerable. And from that point on, it becomes clear that the employer engages in the campaign of terminating that employee or transferring them to a much less desirable position and making their life and their work much harder and much less pleasant. So what does this mean to you? This means that there is one lesson that many employees can and should keep in mind. Before you decide to send that text message or that email where you criticize your boss or you accuse your boss of whatever, ask yourself whether this is going to accomplish something good for you. And also ask yourself whether you can afford taking the risk of being retaliated and being fired, regardless of whether it would be legal or not. Because guess what? Whether it's legal or not, your employer can still choose to terminate you and then deal with the legal consequences of that termination later. There is no urgency in sending that confrontational email or text message or a letter. There is no urgency in having that confrontational conversation with your supervisor. Now, this doesn't mean that you have to put up with everything. It doesn't mean that you have to tolerate being bullied, being harassed, being discriminated. It doesn't mean that, but it does mean that you should ask yourself these questions. You should spend a few minutes in considering these things before you engage with your supervisor. Again, you should ask yourself what you're trying to accomplish and whether what you're doing is going to accomplish that. Is criticizing your boss going to accomplish anything for you? Is accusing your boss of whatever you're accusing him, whether fairly or not, is going to help you in any way? And the other question is, again, can you afford taking the risk of losing that job? What is your personal situation? What is your financial situation? What are your employment prospects? Do you love your job otherwise, or are you ready to get out of there and you really don't care? These are the questions that you should ask yourself before and not after you engage in some kind of confrontational interaction with your boss. Thank you.